So for this entry, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the subjects that I touched on in my last entry, but I just wanted to go a little bit more in depth. I'm somebody who has done a lot of research on bipolar disorder. Psychology in general is an interest of mine. It was my major in college, and should I ever go back, I think I'm seriously considering getting a degree to become a therapist. In California, they call it an MFT, but I know it's a different degree in other states. In any case, so I know a lot about bipolar disorder and mental illness in general, and it's interesting to me as somebody who is probably a little bit more knowledgeable than the average person, that when I have an episode, I don't realize usually that I am in an episode until I'm really in an episode. Like, I generally don't notice that I'm depressed until I'm really, really depressed. And I don't notice that I'm heading towards a mania until I'm already, off the walls, manic or, I tend to get what's called a mixed episode, which is where you feel really, really sad, just like with depression, except you also have the energy and the feeling of the anxiety and the feeling revved up and the inability to focus your thoughts that you get with mania. So it's sort of a ugly combination of the two. And a lot of people don't realize just how serious bipolar disorder is. I help moderate a bipolar community, and I see a lot of people posting about going off their medication for various reasons. A lot of the time, like I mentioned in my previous video, I've noticed that it's a lot of times because they've gained a lot of weight on their meds, which I'll go into some of my thoughts on fat acceptance a little later in this video. But and I think that people really don't have any idea how dangerous that is. Ultimately, if you are bipolar, especially if you're bipolar 1 or a more severe form of bipolar 2, bipolar 1 tends to be the most severe form of bipolar disorder. Bipolar 2 can also be severe. There's definitely a range. It's a spectrum disorder, so you can have more or less severe cases. But in any case, bipolar still today remains to be the leading cause of suicide. When I read that in a recently revised textbook, so I know it's accurate. It was just recently revised in 2006. I read that in a textbook. I was pretty shocked. I knew that it was a serious condition, obviously, and I knew that some people do commit suicide, but I didn't realize that it was the leading cause of suicide. More than 50% of all bipolar patients have attempted suicide at least once. And in addition, substance abuse is a huge comorbidity of bipolar disorder. I believe 60% have had some sort of dealing with drugs or alcohol or both. Dual diagnosis is what they call it when you have drug addiction or alcohol addiction along with bipolar disorder and other mental illness. And dual diagnosis is definitely very common with bipolar disorder. One of the things that's hard for people who are not bipolar to understand is how painful it is. The emotional pain that you can experience when you're bipolar is so intense. I've have chronic physical pain as well, and I honestly don't even think that it compares to the emotional pain. It's definitely I'm trying to think of the best word for it. It's like being in a black abyss. Sylvia Plath wrote about the bell jar. Sometimes I write when I'm having a bad time. I'm like, I am in the bell jar. And I can't really describe that feeling. It's like your soul is made of this black abyss, and all you feel and all you can see is pain, and all you can think about is trying to find some way, any way, to make that pain go away. And when you start to take your medication, you start feeling better, it's easy to think, oh, I don't need this medication. It's hard for a lot of people, I think, to come to the realization that I need these meds to keep myself sane, and I'm going to need them forever and ever and ever and ever. It's hard to say my life depends on a pill. The other day, for some reason, the pharmacy gave me my antidepressant, which is Cymbalta, and also works for my fibro. Two birds with one stone, I guess. Anyway, they gave me it in 3 different bottles. I don't know what. And for some reason, I thought that I had a 3rd bottle, and I had actually was just finished the 3rd bottle. So I did, quick style, call my doctor. Oh my God, I'm out of meds. Because I knew with antidepressants in particular, you can't just go off them all of a sudden. You'll get really, really sick. So it's scary to know, my mental and in my case also my physical health depends on these pills, or I also use alternative medicine. So this herb is what I'm depending on. I can't just be a normal person living out my normal life. I can't do a lot of the things that I wish that I could do, like have a drink, because I can't drink on my meds, ever. The other day I drank a margarita with lunch and paid for it for the rest of the day. I felt like, but it was like an immediate hangover. It wasn't even worth the 1 margarita I drank. So yeah, you really can't drink. And that's another issue I've seen a lot of bipolar patients basically risking their lives. They don't realize how dangerous it is, and they'll go out and they'll binge drink on their meds. Not that I didn't do this when I was a teenager. I'm not going to claim innocence, but that's definitely something that a lot of people do, and they just don't realize how dangerous it is. And ultimately, the strict truth is that if you have bipolar and you're not on meds, you're headed for one of 3 places: drug addiction, death, or the hospital. Eventually, you probably will be hospitalized. For most people with severe bipolar disorder, I know very, very, very few people who've been able to tell me, I'm a functional person diagnosed bipolar. I know I have it, and I don't take any medication. In fact, now that I think about it, I've never met anybody who was able to beat this disease with no medication. And I think that it's really dangerous to suggest to people that there are other ways, because I think that it's very easy to get sucked into that idea and then end up in crisis. And that's definitely a place where you don't want to be. I've really struggled for the past year to get my mental health in order. When I had to go off lithium, it was very difficult. I ended up going back on Depakote, and it took a long time to get my moods evened out and find the right antidepressant to go with the Depakote, because lithium on its own was able to be enough of a mood stabilizer, but Depakote is basically, for me, it only really works on the mania, so I had to have something in addition to it. And then when they raised my dose of Depakote, at one point they raised it really, really high, and they added another medication called Zyprexa, which is like the ultimate weight gain medication. Depakote makes you gain, but Zyprexa really, really makes you gain. So between those two and recovering from intracranial hypertension and being in bed all the time, between January and June of this year, I went from about 195, 200 pounds to 240 pounds. Since switching to Cymbalta and getting off the Zyprexa, I've lost 10 pounds. I didn't do anything to try and lose weight. It just happened. Just a simple medication change. And that's why I really focus when I talk about weight gain and medication. It really is the medication. If I can lose weight, and I'm not the type of person who can lose weight easily, just magically by changing my meds, then obviously there's something to that. Obviously it really was the meds that was making me heavier, as well as inactivity from, having a lot of pain conditions and such, but it also was definitely the medication. And on that note of gaining weight, I just gotten to the point where I was able to say, yes, I'm 5'4", yes, I weigh 200 pounds, but it's okay. It's okay. This is what I need to do, and it's okay to be fat. It doesn't mean that I'm, as Joy Nash says in her Fat Rant video, it doesn't mean that I'm stupid or ugly or lazy or selfish. It just means that I'm a larger person than everybody else. But for some reason, once I got past the 200-pound mark and really was in plus size clothing, and to the point where, for the most part, most normal clothes, especially on the bottom, because I'm pear-shaped, so I'm a lot smaller up top, when clothes stopped fitting me and I couldn't go to normal stores to shop, and something about hitting fully being plus size and noticing the difference in the way people treat you, and knowing that my family were very weight obsessed, knowing what they're thinking of me, and the whole little comments about my size, and knowing that they're thinking I should be doing X, Y, or Z, and I should be dieting, and I should be doing this or that. But a long time ago, shortly after I entered my 20s, I promised myself that I would never starve myself again, because I spent most of my teens doing that off and on. I wasn't really anorexic, but I was definitely, borderline. I certainly had some body issues and an obsession with being thin. And you would never know it to look at me, because I'm generally a bigger person. So even when I was starving myself, I was only like a size 8. I was only like a normal size, but I was starving. I wasn't eating, like, ever. And I was also exercising a ton, and that's one of the reasons I blew out my knees, because I did so much hardcore aerobic exercise that I, with the knee being misaligned, it eventually tried to compensate, and that's what caused the patellofemoral syndrome. But in any case, I came to the conclusion that it's just so much more important for me to be sane and than it is for me to be thin. And ultimately, I really am happier, even though I won't lie. It's not like every day I wake up and I think, oh man, I'm hot shit this morning, I'm not like those people that feel fantastic all the time, no matter what their size is. It's definitely it's something that I have to work on every day, and that's become a part of my life. But you know what? It's a lot better than the alternative, and the alternative for me is being in and out of the hospital, and that's not where I want to be in life. So I think that that bringing up those 2 points was just something that I really wanted to add and let everyone know about, because it's definitely, these are I think, issues that I don't see a lot of people talking about. So keep taking your crazy meds, everybody.